Good afternoon. We're happy to see so many supportive community members here. Thank you for coming.
Yay!
Thank you also to the media. I'm Tanya Rivera, chairperson, that's what I am, a chairperson of Never Again Moss Landing. We're a grassroots, all-volunteer citizen group which grew in 6 days from one person to over 4,900 supporters. We are advocates for our community's voice and concern about the Moss Landing battery storage fire. We believe a disaster like we are experiencing must never again occur, not just here, but anywhere. Soon after the fire, it became clear to our steering committee that both locals and people contacting us from as far away as New Zealand and Europe needed a better picture of why the Moss Landing disaster happened, what could have possibly prevented it, what safety fixes are needed to ensure a lithium battery storage facility won't blow up in their community or ours again. Today we will share insights into why the fire occurred, safety recommendations, local impacts, and other lessons learned. Our findings will be presented by Prunedale resident Ed Mitchell, Moss Landing resident Lori Cruz, and Brian Roeder with the neveragainmosslanding.org. Thank you.
I'm going to read this because it needs to be accurate and I don't want to miss anything.
And close to the microphone, please.
I have 15 years of experience both in the Army and at Lockheed Martin, evaluating and fielding new technology. Because of that experience, I volunteered to do a rapid technical and accountability assessment of why and how the Vistra storage facility failed. 4 reasons. First, Vistra implemented a dangerous storage design. Second, battery thermal runaway created an unstoppable, expanding fire. Third, the California Public Utilities Commission knew or should have known that Vistra's facility was high risk and needed fixes. That didn't happen. Thus, they did not protect the public from safety or reliability failures. Fourth, there was inadequate environmental assessment of the new technology batteries. The following information will help prove my point. The California Powder Works from 1870 to 1920 in Santa Cruz, California, was the largest producer of dynamite west of the Rocky Mountains. The dynamite was needed by the mining industry and railroads. The Powder Works did not store their igniters, powder, and dynamite sticks in the same building. Yes, they had explosions, but never lost all their product. Similarly, the U.S. military stores their munitions in multiple bunkers, like the ones on Old Fort Ord that you can see from Highway 1 just before you get to Seaside. Bombs, grenades, bullets, like that. Similarly, next to Vistra's buildings, over my shoulder, Tesla's outdoor lithium batteries are stored in cargo containers separated far enough to not fail and trigger another cargo container to go into thermal runaway. However, Vistra implemented a different storage design. They implemented a high quantity, single building, high risk battery storage design that has a much smaller footprint than having to go outside and spread out all over acres of land. How big was it? Vistra's regional vice president confirmed during a Board of Supervisors meeting that they stored 100,000 batteries in their 800-foot long, 70-foot wide, 30 feet tall building. On Vistra's website, photos show battery racks stretching towards the far wall. But the website also shows that 22 batteries were inserted into each of the 4,545 LG Energy racks. Thus, every time a battery was added and every time a rack was added, the risk of failure went up, because more parts, more components equals more risk of failure. But in 2020, when Monterey County's Planning Commission was assessing if Vistra's project should be allowed to build at the old Moss Landing energy site, they were told that it was highly unlikely to have a battery problem. Really? Really, like the following lithium battery storage fires in Belgium, 2017, Germany, 2018, South Korea and Arizona, 2019, Liverpool, England, 2020. Certainly, the CPUC and Vistra knew or should have known about repeated losses of lithium battery storage facilities. In the Vistra Moss Landing case, let's take the highly unlikely, a very low probability. But when you multiply it into horrendous results, it's high risk. On January 16th, Monterey Bay coastal families witnessed the result of risk-taking in the Moss Landing storage building. Basically, Vistra and California's regulator of the plant were gambling that there wouldn't be an uncontrollable thermal runaway. Unfortunately, that night, KON TV had to break into their regular news and send pictures to the whole world of the huge, unstoppable fire at Moss Landing. I say that's the burn baby burn phase of thermal runaway. Now, that disaster could have been avoided if California's energy storage regulator did not allow Vistra to operate in an all or nothing, dangerous to the public storage design. Instead, they could have lived up to their promise to protect the public by telling Vistra, stop, go in there and fix some things in the building. For example, put in 3 fireproof walls, so you have 25%, 25%. You have a much smaller problem if one of those rooms, it goes into thermal runaway. So if there was a fire, if you did that, the whole place would not go up in smoke. But it did go up in smoke. And we watched a massive cloud form and drift inland, from spreading to Prunedale, Watsonville, Santa Cruz, and other places. Now we are already hearing people claim the, I'll quote, new and safer technology will replace the old, riskier stuff that burnt down the biggest lithium storage facility in America. Those people are missing 2/3 of the problem. 3/4 of the problem. You still have to walk away from indoor, single room, all or nothing storage designs. Plus, the biggest problem is within the CPUC and the people pushing to have hundreds of thousands of more batteries be turned on each year while ignoring public safety. Here's a fact. Since 2019, instead of helping the battery business excel, the political and business people pushing hard for massive growth shot the California battery storage industry in the foot. To effectively ensure that never again will there be a storage disaster like the one in Moss Landing, requires accepting that the CPUC has been focusing too much on delivering new facilities while forgetting to protect the public. Plus, CPUC reps need to get out of the palace and face the people here, face you, and apologize, and then listen to your concerns. I encourage them, before they come to visit us, figure out the answer to these top concerns folks living with the aftermath of the fire and its polluting plume of smoke. Question 1. What are the short and long-term health impacts to me and my family? Question 2. When does cleanup start at the Vistra facility, and how will it be safely completed? Question 3. How will the CPUC ensure public involvement and input on any new and safer battery technology that will supposedly prevent thermal runaway? Question 4. An EIR must be performed on any new and safer battery technology and its storage design. When will the CPUC require Vistra to deliver its EIR, Environmental Impact Report, to the CPUC and to our County Planning Department for public comment? Question 5. When will the regulator of safe energy plants in California come out of hiding and tell the public her view of what went wrong and what her organization will do to make things right? By the way, we encourage the media to ask these questions of elected senators, assembly people, and members of the CPUC team. Now, I want to say this. There's a lot of people, hard work and diligent at the CPUC, but there was a screw up. What I've just provided defines the problem. Now I'll supply some quick air and ground findings. No emergency response drones were stored at the Vistra facility or with local emergency response organizations or later supplied by the EPA or the CPUC. So fire responders, we know these people, fire responders were not provided aerial observation of on-site and off-site conditions. Imagine if this plant was someplace else or it was a different type of the year. You have high grasses or you have trees. Something off-site can occur. Neither was plume level sensing conducted. No one involved in the January 16th response ever had the means to immediately fingerprint what chemical pollutants were in the plume, nor days later identify the strength of any lingering pollutants in the air. Plus, ground level air sampling personnel walking around like us did not have the means to detect lithium, nickel, magnesium, or cobalt that was used in the batteries in the plant. But the Moss Landing Marine Lab did, and they detected heavy metal in Elkhorn Slough's marsh dirt up to 1,000 times above normal historical measurements. State and county ground level sensing was within 3 miles of the plant. Listen, that night they were trying to get information to you and help protect people. And down close to the ground, it was looking favorable and not having something that would hurt you. But what goes up comes down. What goes up hot comes down cold later on. Because of our steering committee felt testing should be done farther downwind, and because many people on our social sites wanted samples at their homes, our steering committee and some members donated $6,500 to purchase 125 sampling kits, get training, and send the product to Utah for assessment. That community effort returned samples out to 30 miles from Moss Landing. Preliminary results will be talked about during questioning by the press. Recommended fixes in this one area. Use aerial drone sampling to gather plume level air samples more quickly and more thoroughly to fingerprint heavy metals, compounds, and particulates. Then land at a spectrometer analysis site, like right here, where there would be people to do the analysis. This approach can deliver initial results to first responders, county supervisors, to the health department in 4 hours for the first mission. You can send it up again and again. That data could then be quickly transmitted to the public, thus better informing them of the risk headed their way and increase public trust that officials have their game together and really care about the safety of the community. Now let's switch to the good news. Assemblywoman Dawn Addis, who represents 20% of California's coast in 3 counties, Monterey, all the way down from Santa Cruz, all the way down to Paso Robles, and then on to Pismo Beach. She is pushing for the acceptance of Assembly Bill 303 to be passed. That bill restricts where lithium battery storage facilities can be built. For example, not next to environmentally sensitive areas like the Marine Sanctuary here, or children's hospitals, things like that. That's what she's trying to do, is position them in a safer place. That was 2 weeks ago that she announced this. For the people watching this broadcast or getting it on the internet or reading a written account of this meeting, please Google the telephone number for your assemblywoman or man's office, senators, and call them up and leave a message telling them to support AB 303. Now I'll be followed by Lori Cruz, a resident of Moss Landing.
Hi there. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Close to the mic.
Okay. Is that better? Yeah. So I'm Lori Cruz. A lot of you may know me. I was raised here on the Monterey Peninsula since preschool, and I've spent the majority of my 60 years on this earth here in Monterey County, and a good portion of them here in Moss Landing. I've owned a house here in Moss Landing Heights that's adjacent to the bird sanctuary since 1996. And for those of you who don't know where Moss Landing Heights is, it's the subdivision in this community that houses the local residents. It's less than a half a mile away from the smokestacks, where Vistra and PG&E, in collaboration with Tesla, have battery energy storage systems. I was here when the fire broke out, walking on our beautiful beach here in Moss Landing. And when I came over, I was here when the fire broke out, walking on our beautiful beach. And by the time I was able to come over the dunes, I saw the plume, and I saw fires speeding up halfway to the top of the tower. By the time I was able to seek shelter, I had this terrible toxic chemical taste in my mouth and throughout my sinus cavities, which was just a foreshadowing of the symptoms to come. Unrelenting headaches, nausea, fatigue, respiratory issues, and abdominal complaints. Later, I was to learn that these same common symptoms were shared by many in our community and throughout the Monterey Peninsula and North County, as well as residents in Santa Cruz County. In terms of the onset and nature of the symptoms, they were all the same, and the only common denominator was this fire. Common sense dictates that there is a relationship between the two. As residents here, we've seen a lot of energy companies come through and operate out of this plant. Some of them have tried and have been good neighbors. As early as, or as recent as the last 25 years, Moss Landing had PG&E operating, and they sponsored a boat washing program to help mitigate the impact of the fallout from the stacks on boat owners here. When Duke Energy came in, they partnered with the community to fund community improvement projects, and those projects were to include bringing our power lines underground. Unfortunately, those funds were entrusted to the county, and after 20 years, only a fraction of the contemplated project was completed, and none of it in the location where the residents live and would have benefited from it. We remain at risk for fire in this very high wind area, and an area that gets the largest impact of storms that pass through. And we've seen that, what can happen to that, when we've witnessed devastation in Paradise, Lahaina, and most recently Altadena and Pacific Palisades. Unlike the former occupants of the plant, Vistra has not been a good neighbor. They have made no effort to partner with our community, and all of the tax revenue that has enticed counties like Monterey to allow these battery energy storage systems to come in do not come back to the local community. I welcome you to take a drive through our little town here, and you will see Our roads are in complete disrepair. We wade through puddles ankle deep just to get our mail from the post office, and our electrical lines are still overhead. Vistra has brought a nuisance to our community. It has interrupted our quiet and peaceful enjoyment of the place we call home. In the mere 5 years that it's operated here, we've had 4 incidents at the plant. Now, Vista would like to marginalize those and say, well, that wasn't us, that was actually PG&E, or this really wasn't a fire, it was a thermal incident. But the impact on the community is the same. We have had to shelter in place. We've had to mandatorily evacuate. We've had the highway closed twice, this last time for a number of days. Our businesses have suffered. We have health issues, and there's a great amount of what's called toxic insecurity. People worried about their health moving forward and what will happen in the future as a result of this exposure. We have grave environmental concerns. This plant is located in an extremely sensitive area. We have the beautiful Elkhorn Slough, the protected Monterey Bay Sanctuary. We have a bird sanctuary that my house sits on. We're surrounded by prime agriculture. It's just a complete wonder how this was able to be placed here without appropriate scrutiny and environmental reviews. This is the type of nuisance that needs to be abated. We welcome Vistra to be a responsible company and not further increase its liability to its stockholders by going back online before it can guarantee that we will never have a thermal runaway event again. And if they cannot guarantee that, then they should move their operations to a less populated area where they don't pose a risk to the community or our environment. In our quest to move forward to green energy and clean energy, we shouldn't create hazards to humans and the environment that far exceed anything that was associated with the fossil fuels we are trying to replace. It's just common sense.
A member of our steering committee, Brian Roeder, will give some insight into the sampling that our group conducted.
Thanks, Ed. It's kind of tall, so I'll do it this way. My name's Brian Roeder. Our group has been taking several actions over the last 3 weeks to try and bring our community together and get you important information about what's happening to us. A little over 2 weeks ago, we sent out an email telling folks about the meeting in Prunedale. Folks started reaching out. One gentleman who's here, Michael Pocabla from Biomax Environmental, he's an environmental hygienist, reached out. Thank you, Michael. He reached out and said, how can I help? And I responded by saying, how do we get testing samples to show what came out of this fire? And he said, we can do it by taking surface samples. That was on a Thursday 2 weeks ago. And on Saturday, we put 150 sample kits into the hands of many of you. Thank you. And the next day, you brought them back, 125 samples taken between Pescadero and Carmel and over to Hollister. We then anonymized those results. We made sure our data was properly handled so it would hold up under scrutiny, both with the scientific community that is now looking at those results and increasingly getting back to us saying, I've got your results, I'm looking at them, and into the hands of the government and the press and the public. Those results were tested by ALS Lab in Salt Lake City. You can look them up. They're one of the most reputable labs in the country. And with Michael's help, those samples were kept in a chain of control. That's not the right word, but you get the idea, that makes them usable by the scientific and legal communities. They hold up to scrutiny. Those results came back on Wednesday. Before I say what we did with them, I just want to ask you to give a round of applause to Michael. He has worked volunteer. He's put his company on hold. In many ways, we are all volunteers. We all have lives and families and livestock and animals and pets, just like you. The results came back, and by Thursday morning, we reviewed and re-reviewed and re-reviewed to make sure that we had correctly put that information into communication that we could send out that would be received and would be credible. Not only did we have all the raw data and how it was collected, so we could show it was done properly, but we got some local assistance from some very smart folks that made it possible for us to create a spreadsheet that was based on that data that shows a correlation between the metals that were tested for in those samples and their distance from this plant. If you have not seen that material, you need to go to our website, which is very young and has a lot of work to be done. But you need to go to that site and fill out the email and contact information. We'll send it to you. And tell us in the notes that you're looking for that information. We'll get it to you. But it's also been posted at several locations. We don't know how to interpret that data, but it exists because of your efforts. It's going out into the world to people who will know how to interpret that data and tell us what it means to us and our homes and our families. It's our hope that over the next week or two, we'll start getting answers to that data. But what we can tell you is that the numbers that are collated in that spreadsheet show, speaking personally, significant increases in certain areas in what appears to be the environmental baseline. The lowest numbers are all kind of in the same realm, furthest away, and they start going up significantly, depending upon. Now, they're not uniformly spread. There are all kinds of other factors, like are you on a hilltop or a valley? Did the wind come your way? But the results are clear that the numbers go up significantly, just like San Jose State found here. Not the same numbers, but significant increases. So, please go to our website, neveragainmosslanding.org. Please be patient. There's a lot of blank pages there. It's not the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, but it does, right on the home page, have a contact fill out, which goes to our desktop. 5 of us have access to it, and we're not sharing it. Your data's safe. We're your neighbors. So that's what we've done. The results are there. We'll let you know. It's all open source. As soon as we find out what the results are and the interpretation of those results, we will let you know. All right. Thank you for being here. We've got some more stuff for you, all right? Thanks, Ed.
We have another speaker has some information for you, Heather Griffin.
Hi everyone, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Heather Griffin. I'm one of the people that came together in our community to create this group and try to figure out how to help us all move forward from this disaster. We have 2 Facebook pages that we created and that we oversee. Lots of information is being put on those. Moss Landing Fire Community Response Group and the Vistra Symptoms Group are the two groups. But I just recently found out last night after having blood work done that I have lithium in my blood work. And I don't take any medication. So I just want you guys all to know, if you have not had your blood work done, get it done. I just had the test done on January 29th. I live 4.5 miles from here, and I was not outside, and I did not come over here. I have to review everything with my doctor on Monday. And I did have a heavy metal panel done as well, but it's my understanding that that maybe doesn't include the 4 elements that were tested locally, so I might have to have another done. I got tested because I had the metallic taste in my mouth and gum soreness, and my teeth were sore. Even a week after the fire was put out, it wasn't going away. So I went and got tested. Everyone needs to go get their blood work done. Okay, so you can figure out if you have any health risks associated and how to take care of that. So also I wanted to note that on the Facebook page, I've copied a couple of letters that I've sent to Glenn Church, the supervisor. And I want everyone to know that there are 3 more facilities that are trying to go in between here and Santa Cruz. One of them is on 90 Minto Road, a BESS facility that New Leaf Energy is trying to put in. They're based out of Massachusetts. The Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors had a meeting a week ago, and one supervisor recommended postponing the vote for the rezoning of that property, and it was shut down. They are still planning to vote for the rezoning in April, and citizens there are very concerned that if this gets passed, it's going to get fast-tracked, even though the information that they're putting out there is that it's not. So my letter to Glenn Church, because all 3 of our counties are very close together. We're on the northern end of Monterey County. So we've got Santa Cruz and San Benito. And these companies are targeting unincorporated areas specifically because they don't have city ordinances to prevent them from going in. We don't want our unincorporated areas around here filled with these BESS systems. And they're telling everybody on their propaganda that, oh no, this technology is safe, unlike what was at Moss Landing. But Moss Landing is only 3-4 years old, and if that technology was unsafe, they were telling us it was safe then. Okay, so what do we believe? I think the majority of people are very suspicious and apprehensive to believe them, especially when New Leaf Energy is out of Massachusetts. What do they care about us here? They only care potentially about their profits. So we have to come together and start writing and calling supervisors from all 3 counties, ask them to create an emergency moratorium on the approval of these BESS facilities, especially in unincorporated areas. The county, Orange County just recently did this last week. I don't know if you heard about it. They did that. We keep hearing that our local government has no control and no authority to stop them. I beg to differ. If you do what Orange County did and you all come together and say we are placing an emergency moratorium on these going in place, it's at least a start. It's at least us coming together as a community and say, we don't want these here. We need more regulation. There's so much more that needs to be done before we can possibly agree to put any more of these in place. So please, please, please get the word out. Go to supervisors meetings in all 3 counties, write your supervisors and call them and let them know that you do not want these moving forward. This is a fiery freight train that we need to stop. Thank you.
We'd like to give the press an opportunity to ask any questions. Are there any?
Ed?
I want to get it from the press. Okay?
What have you been in contact with Vistra Energy at all? Have they been telling you anything? Because they won't answer any of my questions. They shut me down.
I'll repeat the question, which was, has Vistra got information to us of any type?
Not as far as I know.
Not as much as we know. Any other question? Because we have a surprise question.
Are you sure there was not an environmental impact report for the site?
Yes. Here's what happened with the environmental report. Good question. Okay, in 2019 and 2020.
Right by the mic. Close.
Hello. It's a good question. The question was, what about the original environmental assessment of this project? Have I got that correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. In 2019, the first project came was Tesla, and in it was rated as not having any environmental impacts. In 2020, Vistra's project came together. Now, the reason why what happened was the new technology was not looked at as a new technology, and not having been at the site before, and it should have went under a focused EIR. CEQA, California Environmental Quality Acts, has a very low bar to encourage checking for environmental impacts. There was a lawyer company on the 2019 submittal from San Francisco that challenged the county that they were not looking into hazardous complications with the technology. Somehow they did not make their case strong enough. At least that's in the 2020 version of the results of the finding. What the Planning Commission decided was that they didn't make their case. Now I want to say that my personal feeling is that the Planning Commission was not informed by CPUC or by the applicant of thermal runaway and the inability to be able to stop it unless you have huge amounts of water. I encourage the investigators, which happens to be CPUC, that they look into to what degree did the applicant communicate about the risks of their technology.
So it had, the original one had an EIR. But
No,
the second-
no, there was no EIR in either of them.
Not 2019?
Not in 2019 and not in 2020. No, it did not. And that's one of the reasons why we are encouraging CPUC to require an EIR on the new technology. I can say this to you. Yes, there is better technology. Lithium iron phosphate is a less risky battery. But the question is, does it have any thermal runaway possibility? Yes or no? Because you're witnesses to what it can do. Other media questions?
Right here.
Please, who are you with?
The Pauronian newspaper, Watsonville.
Thank you.
On the day of the fire, the most recent fire, I pulled up at the Sea Harvest restaurant at 3 o'clock, got out of my car and locked the door, and a huge alarm started sounding from below the towers there. Is that protocol? Do you know?
Maybe one of our, Lori, do they have that sound? Yes, I'm sorry. Sorry, the question was, what is standard operating practice for warning the community of incident at the plant? Is that close enough?
Right.
Okay. Yes or no?
Okay, so it's a little more complicated than yes or no, because I can tell you from the surf community, it's a little more complicated than a yes or no. I can tell you from the surf community, they hear those alarms all the time when they're out in the water. The residential community, we got a warning on the third incident by the sheriff going around and knocking on our door, telling us to shelter in place. This last incident, we did not get that. There were a number of us that got the emergency warning at about, it wasn't at 3 o'clock, I can tell you. It was closer to 5:30 or 6. And not all of us got it. And it was on the Monterey County Emergency Alert text.
Who are you with?
It's been about 3 weeks since it's right?
Yes.
And sometimes these batteries will burn for up to a month. We just had a big rain. Do we know if there's any toxic fumes coming out of the plant now?
The question is about the continual burning that can happen long after the main fire occurs. And I don't really have an answer. I know that they've been watching it. They'd sent out an alert when the rain was supposed to come in, but from what I know, it didn't trigger more burning.
Ed, if I may, at the meeting in Castroville 3 days ago, we did get an answer from the fire chief who was present, along with Glenn Church and representatives from the environmental and the health department. The answer from the fire department chief was that they're on site and they've been on site every day monitoring. They also said that they weren't aware of any additional combustion at the site, but they had not yet been inside the building because there's still a lot of debris and there is heat within the building still from the fire.
Other media questions? Yes. Wait a minute. Is that media? No. Here. Right.
Why couldn't ALS Lab interpret the results? Did they just validate them? Why couldn't they interpret it? And are they in St. Louis or Salt Lake?
Yeah, and then if we can't answer this question, we can answer these for you individually because we have a lot of people for other reasons. So I hear you, Ruth. Their job is not to interpret. There's a lot of variation related to climate, soil, wind currents. They just can't. What they can do is provide the data points. We need people who are in this area or outside this area who have knowledge about those factors. I've heard from a professor at UCSC who has wind current data. That's all going to be laid down. There is an environmental baseline that varies from region to region, and they don't know what that is, so they did not interpret for all of those reasons and others that I'm not even aware of. So those people are out there, but that was not the job or the capacity of the testing lab. They gave us results. We have those. They're black and white. Now we can do something with them, with other people analyzing them. Thank you.
I have one more question.
Media, okay?
Yeah. So, when you have an event like this particular chemical that went up in the air, thermal runaway, initially, a lot of that went up into the air because that's the first chemical compound that comes out. It's what we're talking about here, that went into the soil, into the air.
Yes.
Do you think that the county of Monterey acted quickly enough to warn its residents, and do you think they need a better plan in place moving forward?
I can't answer that. I have no way to compare that. I know that we need more information, and I'm hoping the authorities will continue to give it to us. I'm not going to speculate as to your question, which was, do we think that they responded fast enough? I don't have an answer for you. People can form their own conclusions. Did you have anything to add?
We do believe that the example that we provided about how to use a system that will fly up and get stuff and bring it down to where you can analyze it on site might be a good idea for the biggest storage plant in America. Now, more media, public. No. Okay, since the media is done, what we're going to do is we have something to announce that the media, some of them may want to follow us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, what does this look like? It looks like a red tag. The people in the community of Monterey are going to go red tag California Public Utility Commission's facility, and just like a red tag on your own house, it identifies the pollution problems, what caused this disaster, and that they have to clean it up and bring it back up to standard if they're going to ever build another plant here. Stay here, we're going to tag them.